In this video, you're going to learn why you use certain shutter speeds in certain situations. Okay, now there's shutter speed and there's shutter angle. If you're working with a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, you're going to be working with shutter speed for the most part. If you're working with a cinema level camera, you're probably going to be using shutter angle. I'm not going to go too far into the details of what makes them different. They both control a part of your camera's exposure. In other words, how light or dark your image is. Shutter speed is how long your sensor is exposed to light. Not only does shutter speed control the exposure of the image, but it also controls how it looks and feels. It is widely known that 1/48 is the cinema standard. A shutter speed of 1/48 would equal a shutter angle of 180 degrees. When it comes to motion blur, it's what looks the most normal to the human eye. Depending on your creative vision, you may abandon that and go lower or go higher than 1/48. Let's look at some footage to see when I use the cinema standard versus doing something different to get a different look. Okay, these first few clips are me using the cinema standard. So for shutter speed, it will be 1/48. For shutter angle, it would be 180 degrees. If you look through this, you can see it gives it a softer look. So if I just hit play here, if I can get it to play through smoothly, yeah. So it's just a softer, it's what would be the most cinematic, right? So really smooth. You can see around the edges of the head and the jersey, there's a little bit of motion blur. So it's what kind of looks the most normal. You can shoot B-roll two different ways, before the action and during the action. So before the action, you don't want, unless you're going for this look, you don't want it to look as intense motion wise, and I'll be able to explain that a little bit better later on. But so let's move on. So this is in regular speed, so this was in slow motion. Regular speed would be 24 frames per second. When you use 24 frames per second and you combine that with 1/48, or I guess for your camera it would be 1/50. I think it's most cameras. It gives a really cool motion blur effect. It's not an effect, but it's just how the camera looks. But you can see the motion blur as I come through here. You can see as the camera pans and moves, you can see there's a little bit of motion blur in there as he comes in. Even when I'm pausing it here, you can see the blur on the hands here. You can see the blur in the jersey here, and it's just what the eye, this is, if you were to turn your head really quick or you're watching something go by you really fast, you would get, your eye would see, this is how it would see it. Then my last one is just this. That's just 180. You can see the motion blur here in the jersey, things that are moving past here. So you may ask, why choose, for me, why would I choose to shoot at 1/48 or 180 degrees over something a little sharper, which would be like 1/300 or 90 degrees. I like the cinematic look. I think if you get too sharp, it looks just looks a little not real. Based on the way I colored it and the way it's shot, it has a certain feel to it. And this is what you would, if you go to watch a, I'm not saying this is a movie, I'm just saying if you were to go watch a movie, I feel like it would look something similar to this. Just feels normal. Nothing is distracting about what's happening here. Yeah, just a normal shot. So if we go to the in-game action, and this is a tip I will give to a lot of sports creators. A lot of y'all's footage, man, the action footage is really wispy, and that's from having the shutter speed too low. Crank that shutter speed up. It also helps if you're, let's say you're shooting an outdoor sport, maybe investing in a ND filter to help you kind of control your exposure. But for a lot of, especially people coming up, you just got your camera a few months ago, you're shooting sports, let's say, and you want to shoot in slow motion, crank the shutter speed just a little bit to kind of give you some bite to the clip. A lot of times it's just too wispy, and I'll be able to show you here the difference in how it looks. So this clip was shot originally in 60 frames per second, but I converted it to 24 frames per second by speeding it up and giving it a real speed look. For pregame or any kind of B-roll that we shoot, we try to keep it at 180 degrees or 1/50 for the shutter speed. We do that because it looks the most cinematic. It's going to be the most clean image that you can get, and it helps you with your exposure, especially if you're indoors. Helps keep the noise level at a nice spot. When we shoot clips on the ice, we like to bump our shutter angle and shutter speed way up. And the reason is the game moves so fast. Like I said, it would just look wispy, kind of like it just looks it starts to look nasty, like muddy. So you want things to kind of be sharp is the word I will use. And this is just creative freedom, right? Like you can, whatever you want it to look like. If you want it to be more smooth, then by all means keep your shutter speed at 1/50, or whatever you want it to be. When you're shooting in slow motion, it's going to look really really soft, really smooth, and that's just not the look that we go for. We like a really sharp image. So here, this first clip, like I said, it was shot in slow motion, and we sped it up to match real speed. And as you can see, it's really like actiony. You can really feel the action because it's so choppy. You see how it's choppy, where it's like, let's go to this, very smooth. Let's go back to this one. Really smooth, no choppiness going on. You come out here to this, and it's all action. You can really feel him chopping the ice here. You can see all the details. I'll have another shot here in a second that will kind of further show that, but you can just feel the action here, and it's really nice. So I think for on the ice, we shoot our shutter angle. Our shutter angle for on ice action is around 72 degrees. We like to try to get it to 60, but with some of the lighting and exposure, sometimes it's not feasible. You get too dark of an image. For shutter speed, we like to get that thing up above 320 usually, to get this more sharp look. So if you're on a little DSLR or a mirrorless camera, try cranking that up. Like I said, it does. If you don't have an ND filter, it's not going to look the best, but it does save you some heartache if you feel like your footage is just a little like too smooth. So this next shot here, this is another good one. This is slow motion, so this is shot in 60 frames per second, and you can just see, for us on the ice, you can always tell because when they skate stop, or if you get a puck hit at you, it's really sharp. So he does a skate stop here, and you can start to see the ice crystals pop up like that. And the only way you can get that is if the shutter is cranked up or the shutter angle is all the way down. So like I said, we shoot at usually 72, try to get to 60 degrees shutter angle, or if you have a shutter speed, try to get that 1/320, 1/400, somewhere in there. And yeah, so this is the look that we go for. Again, you guys are more than welcome to shoot the way you want to, but I just think this gives it a cool look, and it's very sharp. You can see all of this ice kind of popping up here. A lot of details you're able to catch from here, which is really cool. Same thing here. This was slow motion as well, but we sped it up just a little bit, or I sped it up just a little bit, to give it a really nice sharp feel. And sometimes I don't speed it all the way up. Like this isn't exactly 24 frames per second. It's like 50% slower than what it should be, but it still gives it, I feel, gives it a nice real cinematic look. As you can see the ice kind of kicking up here, just real sharp. You can see all the movements here. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. This is just the difference ways that you can use your shutter speed to give you a certain look. Yeah, so if you have any questions, obviously you can tell the difference between this, right? You can see all the details coming, everything's sharp in this, right? Like this is smooth, cinematic, smooth, motion blur, no motion blur here. There is no motion blur. If there was motion blur, you would be able to see kind of a smooth space in between the different body parts. But it's choppy, it's rigid, and you can only do this by cranking the shutter speed up or taking your shutter angle down below 180 degrees. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial on why you can shoot different ways, why maybe you should think about shooting different shutter angles, shutter speeds. If you guys have any questions, let me know down in the comments. I'll be more than happy to help you out. And yeah, keep shooting.